Time for business. Now, Charles Pellegrin is with us today. Looking ahead to the Labour government in the UK presenting its budget later, eagerly anticipated is one way of putting it.
This is Chancellor of the Exchequer Rachel Reeves' second annual budget, and getting to this point has not been an easy ride. Let's begin with what she had promised. Her line has been one that's supposed to please both her Labour Party base, meaning protecting and even improving the state's social security apparatus and public services, and to please those who hold UK government debt as well and are keeping their eye on the country's public finances, which, as is the case in many other European nations, aren't in great shape. She's walking into this budget presentation with the stated goal of plugging a £30 billion deficit in spending. That's just over 34 billion euros. Coming up with a viable plan to shore up public finances will be crucial for the UK as it faces borrowing costs that are at levels not seen since the last century. As you can see there, this is the yield or the interest the government pays on bonds it issues over 30 years, and it's really gone up since 2020. As a reminder, when a government spends more money than it brings in, it makes up the difference by borrowing more, and the interest on that debt tends to go up when investors draw the conclusion that a government is at higher risk of not being able to pay back. That's why they look at these budget plans very carefully.
What's the solution and what's Labour's plan to get out of this black hole?
Well, first off, Keir Starmer and Reeves have always contended that the way to improve public finances is, above all else, through economic growth. That naturally generates more revenue for the government. But there are concerns here that the economy isn't growing fast enough after a strong start to 2025, in part because of the global uncertainty caused by the United States trade war under Trump. Growth just increased by 0.1% in the third quarter of the year, which is below expectations.
And what about the budget today? What are the plans there?
Well, we've seen a lot of ideas being put forward and then abandoned in the run-up to today's presentation, both under pressure from Labour backbenchers and the markets. The idea of a rise in income tax rates is one example that's proved to be a political third rail and went against Reeves' own commitments. What we're likely to see instead is a huge number of small measures to bring in more tax revenue, what's being called a smorgasbord approach. So this means we're likely to see, for example, a mansion tax on properties that are valued at over £2 million, income tax thresholds being frozen for 2 more years, or we'll see higher taxes on alcohol, gambling, and dividends. David Aikman of the National Institute of Economic and Social Research gives us a bit more context on why that approach was chosen.
She's inherited a very difficult position: high debt, low growth, an increase in interest rates and inflation. But there are some mistakes she's clearly made. So firstly, constraining herself by ruling out income tax increases in the manifesto, I think, was a large mistake. The second big mistake, I'd say, is leaving herself with a wafer-thin fiscal headroom in the last budget. So that's the reason we're kind of coming back this time round to talking about big tax increases.
Worth noting here, there are also some quote-unquote proper Labour measures expected to be announced as well. Reeves to announce a rise in the minimum wage, as well as a freeze on rail fares, or scrapping a controversial 2-child benefit cap. Measures that will please Labour's base, but also potentially lead to more inflation, which in turn could put pressure on the Bank of England not to lower rates. What's clear here is that this will be a crucial test for a government that has been on the ropes.
Quick look at the markets then, Sean. What's the latest?
Absolutely. The European markets opening higher this Wednesday. The FTSE, as you can see here, more cautious, up over 0.1% ahead of that budget proposal by Rachel Reeves. Expectations of a rate cut in the US playing a big part in lifting the sentiment elsewhere. We're seeing a similar picture in the major Asian bourses this Wednesday as well, with the Kospi and Seoul leading the gains, up over 2.5% higher.
Sean, thanks very much. Charles Pellegrin there. Of course, we'll follow that budget for you a little bit later on during the day here on France 24.